Your new news headquarters.
You're on the air.
This could be very interesting.
Next level.
This is The Point.
Afre, my name is Kiona Rivera, student at the University of Guam and recent recipient of the G is for Giving Scholarship. This holiday season, I'm encouraging our island community to support the G is for Giving campaign. Your generous contribution not only support programs at the university, but also helps students like me reach our academic goals. For more information on how you can help shape the future leaders of our island, call the UOG Endowment Foundation at 671-735-2957 or visit their website at give.uog.edu.
If every time you hear a car horn and you laugh out loud, you might be a tailgater. If you can recite the Second Amendment along with Bob, you might be a tailgater. If your hands conduct an orchestra during the big halftime show, you might be a tailgater.
Tune in to Tall Tales with me, Bob Klitzkie, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m., only on 93.3 FM. And you, too, can become a tailgater.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Picking up the pieces, I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News, as rescue attempts turn to recovery efforts in the aftermath of weekend tornadoes in the heartland. The cleanup begins.
Survivors across 5 states pick up what is left after the deadly tornadoes last Friday. 4 twisters in all hit Kentucky, including one with a 200-mile path. The governor warns there is too much destruction to estimate totals.
It may be weeks before we have final counts on both deaths and levels of destruction.
The hardest hit? Mayfield, Kentucky. Drone and satellite images show how the tornado shredded the 10,000-person town. Everything from churches to businesses to homes reduced to piles of rubble.
Fox's Mike Tobin. President Biden will visit some of the hardest hit areas in Kentucky on Wednesday, promising.
This administration has made it clear to every governor whatever they need, when they need it.
The president has issued a disaster declaration for Tennessee. The number of people killed by the storms has now reached at least 88. With violent crime rising across the country, the White House says there are a number of reasons for it, including the pandemic. Press Secretary Jen Psaki sidestepped when asked if soft-on-crime prosecutors bear some of the blame.
There are a range of reasons for that, and what our focus is on is what we can do to address it.
2 new polls suggest many voters are blaming the administration.
Witness the latest ABC Ipsos poll. It shows a stunning 61% disapproval rating for the president when it comes to his handling of overall crime. Worse, 66% disapprove of his handling of the surge in gun violence. A resounding rebuke coming as homicide rates continue to cripple major cities across the country.
Fox's Kevin Corke in Washington. The Supreme Court has refused to grant an emergency order against a vaccine mandate for healthcare workers in New York State who claim the mandate is unconstitutional because it doesn't allow for religious exemptions. America is listening to Fox News.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
The holidays are here and you know what that means. Time to gather with family and friends, dress up our homes, and explore Christmas season in paradise. Why not share these moments for a chance to win $100 in cash? Log on to visitguam.com/Instagram today to participate in the Guam Visitors Bureau #Instagram photo and video contest. A winner will be chosen every week, so share your best holiday moments now and win. Brought to you by GVB, making Guam a better place to live, work, and visit.
The House January 6th committee getting tough with a former top staffer in the Trump White House.
The House panel looking into the Capitol Hill riot has voted to recommend contempt charges against former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Meadows not cooperating, claiming he's covered by executive privilege. The lead Republican on the committee, Liz Cheney.
We believe Mr. Meadows is improperly asserting executive and other privileges.
But Meadows tells Fox there was no criminal intent.
There's never been an intent on my part. I've tried to share non-privileged information.
The full House is expected to vote next on referring the case to the Justice Department, which will decide if Meadows should be prosecuted. In Washington, Jill Nato, Fox News.
Classes have been canceled Tuesday in the Oxford, Michigan school district. Police investigating a specific threat they say was directed at the middle school. It's been 2 weeks since a shooting at the district's high school left 4 students dead. The alleged shooter's parents have a probable cause hearing in court on Tuesday. They've been charged with manslaughter. There's word of a potential settlement by one of the insurance companies in the Boy Scouts bankruptcy case.
Century Indemnity Company and its partner companies have agreed to put $800 million into a fund to pay off sex abuse claims within the Boy Scouts. In exchange, Century Indemnity would not be held liable for future abuse allegations. The agreement must be approved by the court. The total settlement trust has now grown to more than $2 billion. The Boy Scouts face reorganization after more than 80,000 claimants say they were abused by people within the scouting ranks. Abuse survivors will vote to approve restructuring. If they vote no, billions in compensation will disappear because it's the only fund that exists. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Santa's coming and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite My Christmas loan with an annual percentage interest rate as low as 3.99% and up to $50,000. And with the new Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you can have the flexibility of using your money when you want to, where you want to. My Christmas Loan contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas merrier this year. Equal opportunity lender. Credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
As we celebrate this holiday season, we reflect on the hardships of the past 2 years and remain grateful for the family and friends who share our journey and lighten our burdens. The team at Security Title is proud of the work we do to support ourselves and our families, to serve and care for our customers, and to give back to our community. May this season of joy and the new year bring happiness, good health, and prosperity to you and yours. Merry Christmas from all of us at Security Title.
When's the last time you looked at your homeowner's insurance?
We buy a homeowner's policy and never give it another thought until something happens. Life brings changes, and our coverage needs can change. The smart thing to do is get the answers and level up our insurance to make sure we're totally protected.
That's the Insurance Extra Point. Get out there and make something good happen today by calling Guahan Insurance Services at 475-1162 or visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center in Tamuning.
Guam Auto Spot has the best selection in Buick, GMC, Mitsubishi, and used cars like the 2021 Mitsubishi Mirage starting at $127 per paycheck. Zero down. Call 671-478-AUTO to take a test drive or get pre-approved online at GuamAutospot.com.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not so long as I got anything to say about it. And I'm going to have something to say about it every afternoon, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6, from 1600 to 1800 every weekday, hoping that someday I'd be able to do it on Saturday and Sunday, knowing that that's a long shot. So here we go in another episode of Tall Tales. I glanced at the Facebook comments here just as I'm starting out on today's educational, elucidating episode of Tall Tales. Got an interesting post from Ishmael Velez, causing me to embark in a little bit of USMC type humor to match his. Yeah, there you go. And Ishmael says, on the original Bonhomme Richard, September 23, 1779, Captain John Paul Jones shouted at Marine Bob Klitzkie, "Marine, what the hell are you doing? The British are taking the ship." To which Klitzkie replied, "I have not yet begun to fight." Another Marine, overhearing that conversation, said, "Yeah, there's always a 10% that doesn't get the word." All right, so here we go. Let's go from the Second Amendment straight to the card. And I've got the Daily News and the Post, as is our usual custom here. We top Chuck Todd when it comes to his Meet the Press with our Zemi Ikotni, which translated literally means press the meat, but we turn it into a bilingual backwards play on words so that it reads Meet the Press. And I take a look at both the editorials. I mark them up with my blue pencil, correct them mercilessly. And if one is the better of the two, and it is meets my high standards, it would be awarded the coveted blue star. A lot of times, neither one of them gets the blue star because the blue star never goes by default. So here's what the Daily News is saying today. Our view: let's solve the problem of homeless inmate IDs. And here they go. For homeless people and people getting out of prison, the process of getting and maintaining valid identification raises serious problems. Identification cards, social security cards, and birth certificates are easily lost or stolen when people don't have secure housing. Now, if somebody would take advantage of the suggestion that I've made more than once, we could solve that problem. The way we would do it, we would have a couple of centers here on the island where we had communal showers and small lockers that homeless people could put their valuables in, and something like what we used to call army cots for people to sleep on. Nothing elaborate, but a whole lot better than spreading a newspaper on bare concrete. If a person is homeless, that doesn't mean that he's entitled to a place up at Talo Verde just because he's homeless. And that seems to be the tendency of some of the folks here on the island. So that's my solution. If we had done something like that, or we still could do something like that, people would have a place to store their social security cards, birth certificates, identification cards, and cigarettes so they wouldn't be stolen or get wet. And then they go on to say, the editorial goes on to say, while people are incarcerated, identification cards can expire, and unless reliable family members are available to hold on to other documents for inmates, prisoners returned to the community will have to apply and wait for replacements. That might be true. It might not be true. But I can tell you this. When I was a director of corrections, it wasn't true. And it wasn't true because something that I started. It was something that I inherited. And that was when an inmate got to, say, within 90 days of his release date, prison officials, caseworkers, would make sure that that person had the kind of identifications that he needed, including, and I didn't go along with this, including a driver's license. Nobody got out of Dep Corps to do a road test when I was director of corrections, but if it was a matter of completing and signing some papers, fine. And then, of course, when an inmate gets out of prison, he has a parole officer, and this is the kind of thing that parole officers do for inmates. And most people don't realize it, but our sentencing system calls for every inmate upon his full-term release to be on parole for 3 years after he gets out of prison. And if he violates his parole, he can go back. So I hope that this is not true. I hope that the editorial is wrong, because I hope that this good practice didn't stop through the various changes in directors. I suspect that it probably didn't. Okay, so then I go on to say, without proper documents, homeless individuals can't access services that would help them improve their lives. Now, if they were in California and some of the blue states, they could still vote. You don't need an ID card to vote. It doesn't make sense for them, and it doesn't make sense for a community combating homelessness and crime. A number of groups and agencies, including the Guam Homeless Coalition and the Office of Homeless Assistance and Poverty Prevention, have started an initiative to focus on the problem. We need our lawmakers to be involved in this process and help eliminate bureaucratic barriers that keep people from employment and services. Now, I've talked about this before on the show about homelessness, and to me, this seems kind of obvious. The problem that homeless people have is not that they don't have a home. There's a reason that they don't have a home. You know, the chances of Jose and I ever winding up as homeless people, somewhere between slim and none. We're not drug addicts. We are not, we don't suffer from mental defect. Well, at least Jose doesn't.
I didn't raise my hand.
We don't suffer from mental defects. We're not people with severe disabilities, et cetera. So chances of our becoming homeless is not great. Now, most of the people that are homeless because of drugs or because of a 1975 Supreme Court decision, the name of which I don't remember, but it held that people cannot be involuntarily housed, incarcerated, unless they are a threat to someone else or a threat to themselves. The fact that they're nuttier than a fruitcake and living out of a shopping cart, interesting but not consequential. People have a right to live on the street under those conditions.
There's a lot of ghost town institutions in the States.
A lot of
ghost town institutions that closed down because of that law.
Because of that, yeah. And so most people are home. You know, I talked to one guy who called in and said, yeah, I'm homeless, and the reason I'm homeless is because I lost my job. But I suspect that that's not the reason for most people. It's one of the two things that I mentioned, or they were living with family and they got crossways with their family, and their family kicked them out and they didn't have the means to live on their own. So saying, you know, we've got to help the homeless. Helping the homeless doesn't mean giving them a house. Because the chances are, if my thesis is correct, that would be a short-term fix. Oh, and one more category here. There are some people that don't want to live in a house. They're happy living out on the street and would turn you down if you offered them a house. So I think that the premise of this editorial is partially correct. However, I suspect that there are some people, you know, you could give them the king of clubs and it would work just as well as a driver's license. The editorial wraps up by saying perhaps the process of starting the document collection process could begin while inmates are still in prison. Hello? I wonder if the editorial writer here actually called and checked with the Department of Corrections.
Sounds like an SJW.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah, we've got to help these people. Perhaps efforts could be made to provide the homeless with secure storage facilities for documents. I had an idea once. Perhaps a one-stop service location or a mobile service van could be used to assist people who are having trouble getting from one government office to the next. By helping people improve their lives, get jobs, and access services to keep themselves mentally and physically healthy, we help our whole community. Yeah, but I think you're overlooking the real problem here, Pacific Daily News. I've got something else I want to read in this space, but I noticed somebody wants to talk about who else but Another Joe, right? Another Joe, are you calling from the Fiesta shelter down by the Tamuning Commissioner's office?
No.
You're not? That's not where you live?
I think they need to. Is that a new shelter then, Uncle Bob, or is it?
No, the Fiesta shelter's been there for a long time, and it's the hangout for a lot of homeless folks in that area.
Yeah, I've heard that the guy that ran for mayor was helped of Tamuning. I'm sorry, assistant or deputy, whatever you call it, the assistant mayor position. He got in trouble. He's a veteran, military veteran, and he said he was living homeless for a while.
Yeah.
At the Tamuning mayor's citizens.
And one of the candidates challenged him on that. Said, "How can you run for mayor of Tamuning when you don't live in Tamuning?" Anyhow, go ahead, Another Joe.
So I agree with you, Kebab. I think it's a cultural thing, and we lose that through the generations. And so what it is once they get to be a young individual, especially young men, right after high school, they're looking for opportunities. And like myself, you want to look what's out there stateside. So I went stateside, and the thing about it is that early on, I have the youth, the strength, the stamina to keep going. So I'm going to keep going and say, hey, what's out there for me? And who's going to give me an opportunity? I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll work whatever you want me to do. I'll take the trash out, wash the dishes, clean the toilet. You tell me to do it, I'll do it. Tell me how to jump the high, I'll jump it. You know what I'm saying? Figuratively. And so that's what young people have. They have the strength and the stamina to do this. What they need is the encouragement. And so families culturally has to say, okay, hey, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to try to make life work for me. So there has to be a sense of confidence. Okay, go and do it. You do your best. You show us you do your best, and we're going to support you to an extent. And then you talk about budget. You got to talk about, okay, it doesn't work out exactly the way you want it to work out. You can come back, especially during wintertime. We'll try to help you get prepared for the winter.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Another Joe, but my experience is that the homeless folks are not young folks. A young homeless type would be in his mid-30s. That's my experience.
My guess is they never, most of them did not try going off island, stateside, and do it, make it on their own somewhere else. And so they don't have that skill set. And so they're not looking, they may or may not be looking to go. That's why I said, look, hey, all these young people who are right now underemployed, what government law should be doing is working on a way to transport like a transit, an air transit, right? Make it cheap for them to travel stateside. It could be a one-way ticket. It could be a two-way ticket, whatever. For young people, it could be a one-way ticket. For a family, it could be a two-way ticket. And so they come back and set out what they need to do in their household, get stateside, get the job, get a place to stay, right? They got everything. This is the beauty of the free market. There's storage facilities. You get work, you earn the money, you pay for the storage facilities, right? The whole thing is get started. So if you train and condition the young people to do it at a young age and to explore at a young age, then you don't have to worry about them not having the skill set in their 30s and later years.
But I hear what you're saying, Another Joe, but my analysis is drugs, mental problems. And what you're saying, drinking, alcohol, what you're saying wouldn't have any effect on that. It would have an effect on the one that I mentioned, fight with family members who are providing shelter, but that would be about the limits of it. Anyhow, Another Joe.
But then they could help the other relatives. Hey, thanks for your time, Uncle Bob, and thanks for.
I suppose we'll see you at Churchill Downs, Another Joe. So long. Okay, so I have an editorial that ran in another newspaper a few years ago. It ran in the Post, I think, 3 years ago, and I just stumbled across it today, but it's so appropriate considering what's happened to our editorials here and what happened to the Daily News for several years. This is from Lee Weber, and the title is Local Newspaper Editorials Are Far Weaker These Days. And how many times have I commented on that, Jose?
Testify, Bob.
Yeah. And here's what he says. He says, as we age, many times we tend to prefer things the way they were. Is there any other way? Rather than the way they are. I'm beginning to get that way with what some people call newspapers today. Before you run off thinking I'm being a grouch or bemoaning the fact that I no longer want one of those monsters, spare me your ranting. I'm happily retired from such things, but I continue to enjoy writing on a weekly basis. Being on this side of the fence is far less stressful than actually being in charge of what I would classify as a real newspaper. For me, real newspapers are a variety of 1, hard news, 2, investigative reporting, 3, time and work that actually make changes and shed the light of day upon wrongdoing with the government and helps people make critical voting decisions. He's talking about a real newspaper. There is also soft news or lifestyle writing that has a bit more fluff to it and speaks of things we enjoy doing in our lives, and in many cases simply how to cope, although I always disliked that word as it left me with a feeling of not quite making it. I just can't cope. Yeah. That was followed by a good sports section, one that talked about local sports, our kids, local teams, and then maybe just a little bit about national and international sports so we didn't feel like we were being left out of the rest of the world. There was also advertising. My view of advertising is that it too is news about the marketplace in which we live, work, and play. It's something more along the lines of news you could use. But the real heart of a newspaper is its opinion pages. I'm going to read that again. The real heart of a newspaper is its opinion pages. These include the newspaper's very personal, local opinion about something that was truly hard-hitting within the community. And we get them once in a while, and if they're not hard-hitting, they don't get the blue star. I've had this same blue pencil since I've been doing Tall Tales. It's never run out of ink. There just haven't been that many blue stars.
It looks red, Bob.
Yeah. Well, it better not. You better not tell me it looks orange, Jose, or you in a heap of trouble, boy. Yeah. The real heart of a newspaper is its opinion pages. These include the newspaper's very personal local opinion about something that was truly hard-hitting within the community, something the majority of us could sink our teeth into and either strongly agree or disagree with, and maybe even have to go to the dentist after we finish the paper. All of these news and opinion efforts were historically written by seasoned journalists under the watchful eye of even more seasoned editors and generally guided by the Associated Press International Guidelines for Journalists. With rare exception, that critical piece of newspapering seems to be gone, or at least very rapidly disappearing. 3 years ago, it was gone from the Daily News. It ran nothing but Gannett boilerplate. Unfortunately, about 12 to 14 years ago, much of what I just described began to crumble as the reach and penetration of the internet came on the scene. Today, information, notice I didn't say news, can be found nearly everywhere you look on the internet. Unfortunately, it's not edited, nor is it verified with a minimum of 2, and if important, 3 separate sources. The vast majority of it is entertainment, propaganda of one sort or another, or outright lies. That's the internet. That's why you want to listen to Tall Tales, so you can get my version, the real truth. Help me here, Jose. Yeah. Locally, newspaper editorial pages are far weaker than they need to be, and real investigating reporting has all but disappeared. You know, the reporter said to the sailor, "Have you ever sailed any farther than about 3 miles from Guam?" And the sailor was quoted as saying, "No, I haven't." The reporter said, "Why?" And the sailor said, "I don't want to sail off the edge of the earth." The reporter put the quote in the paper, and that was the end of the story. Investigative reporting is a lost art. Whatever people tell you, you just put it in your story and let it go at that. This behavior encourages local government and politicians to run roughshod over the citizens, and, well, the rest is what you see happening around our island and in the balance of the world. Someone in the so-called news business has to snap to and get it right again. We had high hopes for the Daily News when Kaleo Moylan took over. We've seen some improvement in the editorial policy, but there's still a long way to go. Okay, then we have the Post. Let's focus on substance, not hype, and working toward tourism rebound. But let's take a break before we get into that. I'll be back in just a second.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Subway's Eat Fresh Refresh has done it again, serving up yet another new and improved sub, the Cali Fresh Steak, loaded with tender, flavorful marinated steak on top of thick-cut hickory smoked bacon, smashed avocado, and fresh mozzarella. The Cali Fresh Steak is protein-packed to leave you feeling full and satisfied. Cali Fresh Steak is made on our freshly baked hearty multigrain bread layered with fresh veggies of your choice. Subway, eat fresh.
Portions of the program brought to you by Nissan. Choose your favorite Nissan, and there's an abundance of Nissan automobiles to choose from. Rogues, Rogue Sports, Muranos, Kicks, Sentras, Leafs, Rogues, and then start talking about the deal they want to put together for you. Enjoy 0% APR, or your first 3 payments are on them. Just sign and drive away. Inventory limited, so don't wait. See Nissan Guam first. Wait, there's the fine print. I got to read the thing in fine print ease. On approved credit, 3 payments calculated, 5% APR, 60 months term, and based on the actual selling price of the vehicle only, not including down payment or any aftermarket products or accessories. See Nissan Guam for full details.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255.
So here's the Post today. It's got some muscle. Not as hard hitting as I like, but it's okay. The title: Let's Focus on Substance, Not Hype, and Working Toward Tourism Rebound. Anyone visiting Guam for the first time or as a recurring visitor should be able to appreciate, after leaving the air-conditioned hallways of the Wanpat International Airport Terminal, the sense of tranquility the island offers. The breezy weather warms one's face in relatively calm arrivals area. The humidity embraces you and fills your lungs after long hours of recycled plain air. There's no frenzy of cars and airport greeters and traffic noise, even though Guam's airport, before Wuhan virus hit almost 2 years ago, saw between 1.5 million and 1.6 million tourists come and go every year, as recently as 2019. Guam is not hard to sell as a destination for visitors who value a mix of resort ambiance, a relaxed vibe, slices of American shopping and dining, and relative safety. We say relative because robbers have preyed on tourists on the island's beaches and sidewalks. But because the cost of airfare to Guam, accommodations, and dining are not appealing to as many budget-conscious travelers as the island would like to see in comparison with other Asia-Pacific destinations.
Any wrinkle in the tourist's experience here should be addressed. Taking care of the lingering problems of stray dogs. Tourists probably don't come down to Guam to see that lot up the street where there were 30 stray dogs out there. Stray dogs, wild pigs, and other recurring eyesores is not only a benefit for the tourists, but more so for the well-being of our 150,000 people who call Guam home. And I'm going to chime in here. I'm going to use the company's back scratcher to scratch my own back. Something that really aggravates me is the way we let our roadsides deteriorate. The road between Jigo and Dedido, if you're heading north, the right side of the road looks like a reforestation project. There are weeds growing there that are taller than I am. The last time Public Works came along and chopped them down was like 5 months ago. So apparently Public Works doesn't think that it's necessary to cut the weeds and then keep them down. You just let them grow like a crop and then go out and harvest them a couple times a year and let it go at that. But it looks horrible to have all of these boonies growing alongside the road. And of course, it's a safety hazard because people use the shoulders for bicycle riding, to walk, to run, etc. So, you know, if we're really going to beautify the island, this editorial's got a point. We got to get rid of the stray dogs. We got to get rid of the wild pigs. We got to straighten up our roadsides. We don't need a lot of Guam archaeological relics, meaning dead refrigerators and dead washing machines, cluttering up our roadsides. Not far from the international airport lies a breeding ground or grounds for stray dogs. There are strays everywhere on this island. And also just a few miles from the airport, including in the village of Mong Mong, lies one of the more disruptive feral pig infestation sites the island has seen in recent years. In this area, trash bins are left in disarray as wild pigs forage for food. This issue is also a healthcare concern as diseases associated with swine, that's a word you don't hear very often, swine, include ringworm, leptospirosis, and salmonella, just to name a few. Now one would argue that tourists generally stay within the bubble of Tumon Bay, but that isn't always the case. Some vacation-seeking visitors want to experience a Guam home, meaning bed and breakfast type accommodations. And I'm going to butt in here and tell you that my experience is that Koreans are very likely to rent cars and drive around the island. I've heard that from folks in the tourist business. The Japanese, you know, you used to know where the Japanese were because there'd be a leader with the flag out in front of 30 different Japanese tourists almost marching in step. Koreans are different. As we've seen visitors walking or biking around the island, including in the Mong Mong Toto Mighty area, would we rather see our tourists share pictures of Guam showing stray dogs and feral pigs, rusted appliances on roadsides and graffiti, or do we want their images of Guam to feature mostly fun, sand, and sea? The Guam Visitors Bureau is crafting a, quote, re-image of Guam tourism revival campaign to bring tourists back in droves, an endeavor that could cost $50 million, of which $20 million is already in the bag thanks to the federal government's multi-million-dollar pandemic cash aid to the island. We trust that GVB, with the oversight of the proper elected authorities, will consider the best and maximum use of these big bucks. We hope a substantial chunk of that money goes towards helping mayors and other at the village level take care of the festering problems right here at home rather than pouring more money to paint a glossy picture of Guam abroad. The cleaning and sprucing up of our island home should be one of the first steps before we roll out the tourism red carpet and drum up an image of Guam that might not be what visitors encounter out of the arrival's door. The last thing we need after Wuhan virus pandemic worries subside is for tourists to come back only to feel that their Guam experience was a letdown. Yeah, not to mention the bad press that lurks out there. You know, some independent journalists would love to do a Guam pig and dog story. Guam, you know, you want to see some wildlife, go to Guam. They've got dogs and pigs.
As soon as you get off the plane.
As soon as you get off the plane. And you know, if you were to go to Nairobi, that's exactly the way it is. You get off the plane in the airport, which is maybe 2 or 3 miles out of town, and the next lot next to the airport, you see giraffes and zebras and everything else out there. Well, we're right up there with Nairobi, right?
We just don't need a ladder.
Yeah.
They're right there.
So, taking into consideration Lee Weber's column, this is what we're looking for as far as editorials are concerned. So today, the Post gets the coveted blue star. There it is. Congratulations, Guam Daily Post. And that takes the Post up to 258 blue stars, to 75 for the Daily News, and 5 for Candid News.
I just have to put my Daily Grouch opinion in this. This editorial would be really great if the front page or the rest of the paper didn't keep screaming Omicron, Omicron, Omicron.
Yeah, really.
It's just not compatible with this editorial.
It isn't, yeah. Yeah, this whole Omicron thing is really not news anymore. And that's all the Daily News can print. Oh, 2 people died today. Or we tested 40.
It could be Omicron.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at the card. Here's what we've got on the card. I'm going to go back and redo a little bit of Tall Tales versus Separatists. Jose, what color is my shirt?
I better not say it's orange, so it's not orange.
No, it's not orange, that's for sure. Yeah. You think it's red?
No.
Uh-huh.
It's not red.
How about green?
Looks like a hue of green.
Yeah, it could be green. Now, for sure, it's not orange, right?
Absolutely not orange.
How do you know it's not orange?
Because it wasn't made with achote seeds.
Good guess, but you know how I know it's a guess? Because it's wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. The answer is you know it's not orange because who would never wear an orange shirt?
That would be you, Honorable Bob
I would
Klitzkie.
never, ever wear an orange shirt. So if you hear somebody saying Bob was wearing an orange shirt on Monday, you know that they were not watching Tall Tales, or even worse, they were watching and they weren't paying attention. All right, so a little bit of Tall Tales as you were. I'm sorry, a little bit of the facts versus the narrative, Paul Zerzan versus systemic racism. That's the first item on the card. Then Tall Tales versus separatists. Then Mark Smith versus the San Nicholases. Chicago versus Fox. That's Foxx, Fox, as in Kim Fox, the district attorney for Cook County. And then BLM versus hate crimes. So starting out with Paul Zerzan versus systemic racism. You'll recall that yesterday I went through the battle of red rice, where Paul Zerzan called attention to the fact that what we call red rice really isn't red, it's orange. And this prompted an outburst in the Daily News from Therese Padua Howe. And I use this as an example of how the narrative overcomes the facts and the truth in so many cases. I would challenge anyone to look at what we call red rice at a fiesta and tell me that it's not orange. It is not red. But Therese Howe, in a piece in the paper, supposedly a news story in the newspaper, said, talked about how Zerzan published his letter, and then she says, but it surely touched a nerve. Posts on the topic reached more than 100,000 accounts and generated 1,000 comments. The majority vehemently rejected the proposal, such as Cecile Chargaloff's comment, "Why change traditions? It's like, here we go again, being invaded and changing what is naturally ours to what they think it should be because they don't like it. I don't care if it's not the color of their liking or if it's not dark enough for them. Just leave what is traditional thing to be just that, tradition." So the narrative is, I don't care what color that rice is on the fiesta table. I'm going to call it red rice because that's my narrative. And if you don't go along with it, you are a bad person because you're just standing there saying it's orange for the absolutely dumb reason because it's orange. Don't you know that the narrative says that it's red? And then Therese winds up her column by saying this: "The only thing Chamorros are more protective of than family is our food. Red rice is regardless of the reddish-orange hue," said Paula Lujan Kaneni. So, you know, what you call rice, whether you call it red or orange, you know, that's not the point here. The point is this, that this really is a good example of how when people pick up a narrative, they don't care what the truth is. They don't care what the actual facts are. They're going to go with the narrative. And that is a phenomenon that is swept over our country, completely swept over our country, and it has made grave inroads on our island, especially when we get to the next item on the card, tall tales versus separatists.
Here's a good example. Try wearing a red hat with white letters anywhere.
Anywhere.
People don't even read the letters anymore. They just see that as iconic.
Yeah, they know what it is.
To their narrative.
Absolutely. So, you know, I redirected my attention back to Paul Zerzan. Paul is what you might call a provocateur or an iconoclast. And it's not easy to be a provocateur or an iconoclast. I've had a lot of experience doing it myself. But these folks are absolutely essential to a well-functioning society. And we've talked about critical thinking on the show more than once. Critical thinking is absolutely essential to making enlightened decisions. And the folks who are most probably going to be the ones that prompt critical thinking are not the ones who come along and say, well, here's the narrative, we got to stick with that. It's the provocateurs and iconoclasts like Paul Zerzan that actually are the sponsors of critical thinking. So hooray for Paul Zerzan. I read one of his pieces yesterday about Michael Bavacqua leaving out critical decolonization facts. And then I've got another, I stumbled across another one today. And this is short. And this ran in the Post a couple of years ago. No, it ran in the Post in February of 2021. And here it goes. It's a letter to the editor from Paul Zerzan. Central question in abortion debate not addressed. Ellen P. Bez, MD, wrote an editorial on abortion access in the February 18, 2021 issue of the Daily Post. In this editorial, she completely evades the central issue of this debate. Does an unborn baby have a right to life? I think everyone agrees a woman should control her own body, and the decision to become pregnant or not is her responsibility. That is not what the debate is about. The debate is about the body of another person, the body of an unborn baby that resides within her. That this silent and defenseless baby can be easily killed for mere convenience does not alter the moral and social issues involved. Paul Zerzan. Yeah. So, Ellen Bass, the narrative, a woman has a right to control her own body. A woman has a right to choose. The fetus in her womb is not really a person. On and on and on and on. And you need a guy like Paul Zerzan to come along and tell you, hey, wait a minute, that really isn't the way it is. So once again, 3 cheers for Paul Zerzan. I'm going to take a short break, and I'm going to come back to the next item on the card, which is Tall Tales versus Separatists.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Okay, so here we are, running up to the big Tall Tales halftime show that you all enjoy so much. Cheerleaders, marching bands, drill teams, acrobats, etc. And now I'm going to talk, I'm going to go into the next item on the card, which is Tall Tales versus Separatists. And as a text for this, I'm using the 20-page insert that came out with a Friday edition of the Daily News. Jose's got one. If you didn't get one, try to find one. I don't know where to tell you you could find one. You could go to the website of the Commission on Decolonization. You won't find the information there. No. So I really don't know what to tell you about that, but I will take you through it item by item. It's going to take a few shows to get through it because there's so much in here. But I want to tell you this, that it's 20 pages that theoretically deals with Guam's decolonization and offers 3 possible alternatives for Guam's decolonization: free association, statehood, and independence. And I've gone to great lengths to tell you why the only one of those 3 that's legally and factually and practically possible is independence. If the United States Congress decided to pass a bill exercising its Article 4 Section 3 authority, it could make Guam an independent country, just like it did with the Philippines in 1946. Statehood is a practical impossibility. We've only got a little over 150,000 people here. Wyoming, the state with the smallest population, has 680,000 people. California's got 40 million people. So which one of the states would be really glad to see a jurisdiction with 150,000 people move in and get 2 senators? None of them. It just is not a possibility. Puerto Rico? Yeah. Guam? No. So it's a practical impossibility. This idea of free association is a legal impossibility. The separatists make a lot of noise about Chamorro self-determination. Well, I can't imagine the United States developing a framework where it could negotiate with Chamorros. Chamorros are not a political entity, not a legal entity, not a fictive entity, etc. And I can't imagine a situation where the United States would negotiate with authorities from the territory of Guam. Since the territory of Guam is completely, as the separatists point out at the drop of a hat, completely under control of the Congress under Article 4, Section 3. So it would be sort of like negotiating with yourself. If we were to say, well, we want free association, it's not going to happen. So of the three, the only real possibility is independence. And I see this as, a really nifty job of gaslighting by offering 3 alternatives, only one of which is real. And this all comes back to a bill that was authored by Hope Cristobal. Hope Cristobal's bill in the 23rd Guam legislature became law and became it was the organic legislation for the self-determination, as you were, the decolonization commission. Now, I think regular listeners here, regular watchers are pretty familiar with Hope Cristobal. It takes us back to poor old Paul Zerzan. Hope, went into a rant down in Petey. It's just unbelievable because Paul Zerzan had the temerity to show up at one of the rallies for the separatists. And I've run the video of that more than once here on Tall Tales, and I'm going to continue to run it. I think maybe what we'll do, Jose, we'll run it every Monday. So if you haven't seen the Hope Cristobal video, make sure you're watching on Monday, and I'll run it then. So what we refer to as the Chamorro self-determination, as you were, is the Decolonization Commission. This is the real title of it. It's the Commission on Decolonization for the Implementation and Exercise of Chamorro Self-Determination.
That's the literal language.
That is the literal language of the bill, of the title of the bill, and of this chapter. Chapter 21 in Title 1 of the Code. And the purpose of the bill, according to what's now listed as Section 201 of Title I, Hope's bill didn't have was not codified, so it was just section numbers without code sections. But the purpose of the bill is to, let's see. Yeah, I don't have that. I'll have to pick that up tomorrow. Anyhow, it's to provide self-determination for the Chamorro people. So this 20-page insert, the very first sentence starts out with gaslighting, because it's not the Decolonization Commission, it's the Commission on Decolonization for the Implementation and Exercise of Chamorro Self-Determination. Here's how the first sentence of the insert reads. Resolving Guam's political status is important work that will prepare our island to move into the future of an ever-changing world. We're not talking about Guam here. We're not talking about decolonizing the island of Guam. We're not talking about decolonizing the territory of Guam. The next sentence picks up that same gaslighting by saying it is the only way for the people of Guam. Now, there are about 154,000 people on Guam. Not all of them are Chamorros. In fact, most of them are not Chamorros. But the Decolonization Commission on Decolonization for the Implementation and Exercise of Chamorro Self-Determination, not interested. The insert goes on to say, it is the only way for the people of Guam to take control of our destiny and empower ourselves to make the decisions that are right for us. So we're back to pronouns here. Their pronouns, not our pronouns. Let's break for the big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
They find him contemptuous. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. The House Select Committee on what happened at the Capitol January 6th, voting to hold former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows in contempt for refusing to testify to them after he broke off talks with the committee last week.
He changed his mind and told us to pound sand.
Committee chairman and Democrat Congressman Benny Thompson, but Meadows tells Fox's Hannity,
this is not about me holding me in contempt. It's not even about making the Capitol safer. We see that by some of the selective leaks that are going on right now. This is about Donald Trump and about actually going after him once again.
The full House will decide whether to ask the Justice Department to pursue contempt charges against Meadows. The president has issued a disaster declaration for Tennessee. He plans to visit storm-ravaged Kentucky on Wednesday. 88 people are now known dead in the wake of the devastating tornadoes Friday night and early Saturday. In Taylor County, Kentucky, Nevin Price is just thankful he survived.
I'm blessed to be alive. I mean, I'm fortunate.
Kentucky's Governor Andy Beshear says it may be weeks before they have complete numbers on deaths and the level of destruction. High wind warnings and watches now stretch from western Utah to central Wisconsin. Winter storm warnings are up for parts of Oregon, California, Nevada, and Montana. The National Weather Service says the mountains of northern Arizona could get up to 8 inches of snow. A powerful earthquake has struck offshore from Indonesia. The magnitude estimated at 7.3. There are scattered reports of damage. There was a tsunami alert briefly, but it's since been canceled. A specific threat has caused the administrators in the Oxford, Michigan school district to cancel classes on Tuesday. 2 weeks ago, 4 students were shot to death in the district's high school. A 15-year-old student now charged in their murders. America is listening to Fox News.
When's the last time you looked at your homeowner's insurance?
We buy a homeowner's policy and never give it another thought until something happens. Life brings changes, and our coverage needs can change. The smart thing to do is get the answers and level up our insurance to make sure we're totally protected.
That's the Insurance Extra Point. Get out there and make something good happen today by calling Guahan Insurance Services at 475-1162 or visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center in Tamuning.
Santa's coming and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite My Christmas loan with an annual percentage interest rate as low as 3.99% and up to $50,000. And with the new Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you can have the flexibility of using your money when you want to, where you want to. My Christmas Loan contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas merrier this year. Equal opportunity lender. Credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
California ordering everyone to mask up through the holidays.
Mask wearing will become mandatory in all indoor public settings across California for 1 month beginning Wednesday, December 15th. The order comes as new coronavirus cases in California have jumped 47% since Thanksgiving, and health officials fear a winter surge. The state is also tightening existing testing requirements for unvaccinated people attending indoor mega events. That's an event with 1,000 people or more. So if you're not vaccinated, you must show a negative antigen test within 1 day of the event or negative PCR test taken within 2 days. The current rules allow for a test within 3 days of the event. That changes again Wednesday when the mandate takes effect.
Reporter Marla Tellez of Fox 11 in Los Angeles. The Air Force has dismissed 27 airmen for refusing orders to get the coronavirus vaccine. The NFL ordering its coaches and staffers to get coronavirus booster shots. A new poll conducted by the AP and the NORC Center for Public Affairs Research says 36% of Americans say they are very or extremely worried that either they or a member of their family will be infected with COVID. That's an 11% jump from a poll taken 6 weeks ago. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin set to change his plea on charges he violated George Floyd's civil rights.
Earlier this year, a federal grand jury in Minneapolis indicted the 4 officers involved in the arrest and murder of George Floyd, saying they willfully deprived Floyd of his civil rights, with one count alleging that 2 of the 4 officers failed to intervene to stop then-officer Derek Chauvin's unreasonable use of force. In September, Chauvin, who's serving 22.5 years in prison for the murder of Floyd, and the other officers pleaded not guilty to the federal civil rights charges. Now Chauvin is changing his plea to guilty.
That's Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
The holidays are here, and you know what that means. Time to gather with family and friends, dress up our homes, and explore Christmas season in paradise. Why not share these moments for a chance to win $100 in cash? Log on to visitguam.com/Instagram today to participate in the Guam Visitors Bureau #Instagram photo and video contest. A winner will be chosen every week, so share your best holiday moments now and win. Brought to you by GVB, making Guam a better place to live, work, and visit.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
As we celebrate this holiday season, we reflect on the hardships of the past 2 years and remain grateful for the family and friends who share our journey and lighten our burdens. The team at Security Title is proud of the work we do to support ourselves and our families, to serve and care for our customers, and to give back to our community. May this season of joy and the new year bring happiness, good health, and prosperity to you and yours. Merry Christmas from all of us at Security Title.
Guam Auto Spot has the best selection in Buick, GMC, Mitsubishi, and used cars like the 2021 Mitsubishi Mirage starting at $127 per paycheck, 0 down. Call 671-478-AUTO to take a test drive or get pre-approved online at GuamAutospot.com.
another great halftime show here on Tall Tales. The marching bands, the cheerleaders. Now that we finally got this Wuhan virus on the run, it probably won't be that long before we go back to synchronized card sections in the grandstand. I can hardly wait. Okay, I left off with a 20-page insert here in the Daily News, and I've been using a broadcasting convention here as I relate the content of this particular piece of paper by ascribing a human existence to it, sort of an anthropomorphic reading of the paper here, because I say things like the insert says. Now, of course, this insert here is not capable of saying anything. I am, me and my, what color's my shirt here?
Absolutely not orange.
Yeah, I am capable of that. And from time to time, I get after the news media for ascribing an anthropomorphic existence to government agencies, sort of like public health said that, when actually public health can't say boo. So I've been doing the same thing here, and I would suggest that it's a broadcasting convention because it's much less awkward to say this article says that than to go the longer route by saying the article reads in pertinent part as follows. So I'm going to continue to do that, knowing the difference between an animate object that's capable of speaking and an inanimate object like a newspaper or an insert that's capable of being read. Continuing on, this article says, the insert says it's the only way for the people of Guam to take control of our destiny and empower ourselves to make the decisions that are right for us. So I got to know whose pronouns we're dealing with. And the unfortunate thing is that in English, when we're talking about the first person plural, that we only have one set of pronouns. We have we, us, and ours. If we're using chamorro inflects for inclusive and exclusive. So if we're talking about we, and if I'm saying to you, Jose, if I'm saying we need to go, I would say David Tahano. The ta is inclusive. That means you and I need to go. I don't remember how to say the exclusive, but the pair of inclusive and exclusive that I am familiar with are hita and hame. So if I use hita, that means you and I, the person I'm talking to, we, and perhaps others. If I say hame, it means others but not you. Unfortunately, English doesn't inflect that way, which provides the kind of ambiguity that the author of this 20-page insert, I'm wondering if it's the ghost of Charles Boyer. Charles Boyer. Who was Charles Boyer? Charles Boyer was a famous French actor who had the lead role in the movie called with Ingrid Bergman, Charles Boyer, in about the 1945 movie Gaslight. I'm wondering if his ghost may have had a role in writing this particular insert. So, this ambiguity then caused by our pronouns, our first person plural pronoun, not inflecting for inclusion or exclusive. When the average person reads this, he sees our, and he thinks, well, they're talking about me, but they're not, unless you happen to be Chamorro. So the article reads like this. as long as Guam remains an unincorporated territory, our people, now who are our people? Our people will never be treated equally. By whom? Now, this is negatively pregnant with the idea never be treated equally by the United States. So part of this adoption of critical race theory tactics is to beat up on the United States as often as you can to make the case that, you know, we got to do something different. And my thesis is if you go through this whole paper, you will be channeled towards independence if you study the whole paper. The next sentence says, changing our political status ends the injustice of our colonial status. The injustice of our colonial status. Now, does that mean today? Or does that mean going back to the beginning of time as reckoned by the separatists, which means March 6, 1521.
Why there? Why not further back?
Well, because March 6, 1521 is when Magellan sailed into Homatuk. And that was the beginning of colonialism. Oh.
They forget about the other islanders that came here and colonized the island. But that's another subject.
Yeah, we'll get to that later on. Yeah. Right. So we go on. We'll skip a paragraph and go on to the next one. Guam is unlike any other place, and there is no perfect model for us to follow or imitate. No perfect model for us to follow or imitate. Now, according to the separatists, there are three models: free association, independence, statehood. Well, there's really no model for us to follow as far as independence is concerned. I suppose we could try South Africa. No, we don't want to do that. Let's see. Solomon Island? No, that might not work out so well either. New Caledonia? No, New Caledonia just voted that they wanted to stay with France. And of course, that made front page in both the local newspapers here.
How dare they?
Yeah. So it certainly can't be independence. Free association, no perfect model for us to follow? Well, there isn't, because free association is impossible. So that just leaves one other possibility, statehood. So Guam is unlike any other place, and there is no perfect model for us to follow or imitate like statehood. In other words, we reject statehood as a model for us to follow, even though, you know, we've had states since 1789, and we know exactly what that status is, what the political status of a state is, and what its relationship to the national government is. But that wouldn't be one that we could follow. We have clearly outgrown our unincorporated territory status, and further improvements under the current status quo are not enough to fix the inequity of our relationship with the United States. Yeah, you know, they're never going to give us any more than $2 billion. What an inequity that is. And then here's the punchline. A fully self-governing status is the only way to empower the people of Guam to protect our own interests and make decisions that are right for us. We'll get, once again, going back to the pronouns, who is us? And who are the people of Guam? Is it all the people of Guam or just a select group? And then self-government is the only way to empower the people of Guam. Well, self-government, as used in this context, has got to narrow down to just independence. And that's why I keep saying The purpose of these 20 pages is to channel your thought process to the point where you're saying, yeah, we have to be independent to do all these things that they're talking about here. So that's today. I'll come back and we'll pick up another section of the Gaslight Times tomorrow. Next item on the card is Mark Smith versus the San Nicolases. And starting out here with an article that ran in the Post, jury finds former Gura attorney guilty of wire fraud. Attorney Mark Smith stood beside his defense counsel in the District Court of Guam on Wednesday morning as the federal jury's verdict was read inside the courtroom. After a day of deliberation, Smith, a former attorney for the Guam House for Gura, was convicted of multiple charges in connection with a fraud case. He was found guilty of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, 26 counts of wire fraud, theft of government property, conspiracy to commit money laundering, 3 counts of engaging in monetary transactions with proceeds of specified unlawful activity, and 2 counts of laundering of monetary instruments. The trial went for nearly a month before Chief Judge Ramona Manglotnia in the District Court of Guam. You got to say Chief Judge of the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas. She's not our Chief Judge. She sat in for Frances Gatewood, who apparently disqualified herself. Statement from counsel: we were surprised by the verdict. Of course, we're probably going to appeal. Sentencing is scheduled for March 8th of next year. Smith was accused of receiving housing payments through his friend, Glenn Wong, despite Smith's conflict of interest as Gura counsel. Now, what's going on here is certain people are not permitted to do the Section 8 routine with Gura. Board members, employees, counsel, etc. Prosecutors also argued that Smith used Wong, a former flight attendant, now deceased, to conceal Smith's ownership of rental properties being rented under the Section 8 program. The program provides rent vouchers to thousands of Guam households. So that's what happened to Mark Smith, unfortunately. So that's what happened to one person who ran afoul of the federal regulations that deal with the funding of Gura, and that's why this case went to the district court rather than to the Superior Court. Okay, now we've got something that kind of looks really similar to the Mark Smith matter on its face. And this is, I'm going to read a story from the Daily News, from the Post. The Post says, here's a headline: Delegate father seek dismissal of Gura complaint. Guam delegate Michael San Nicolas and his father, Miguel B. San Nicolas, are asking for the dismissal of the civil complaint filed against them by Gura for allegedly making false claims related to their role as landlords in the federally funded Section 8 housing program. Yeah. Michael San Nicolas was a senator who had direct oversight over Gura, and that posed a conflict of interest when he continued to be a landlord for Gura's Section 8 program tenants, the lawsuit contends. The allegations stem from housing lease contracts that began a decade ago, before Michael San Nicolas became a public official, but continued after he was elected in office as a senator in 2013. In 2017, he stated that he would sever ties with his tenants to avoid conflicts of interest. Looks like he maybe got a better deal than Mark Smith. Gura is now seeking to recoup payments made during the years when the alleged conflicts took place, in addition to other relief. Between January 2013 and April 2017, Michael San Nicolas reportedly received about $54,041 in payments. His father was involved in his political career, and as an immediate family member, Miguel San Nicolas also had a conflict of interest, Gura contends. Miguel San Nicolas entered into housing contracts as a Section 8 landlord in late September 2013, and from October 2013 until the end of October 2017, he reportedly received about $76,186 under the contract. So, some similar circumstances here. Now, the San Nicolases are facing a civil suit brought by Gura, whereas Mark Smith was prosecuted criminally. The article goes on to say, the San Nicolases argue that there are only two ways to seek action under the Guam False Claims and Whistleblower Act, case brought in the Superior Court. Action can be initiated by the Guam Attorney General or by a private person, and Gura is neither, according to a court filing on their behalf. Okay, I'm going to stop there for a moment. Well, let me go on here. The Attorney General declined involvement under our False Claims Act. A citizen can file a false claim, the attorney, and has to serve the Attorney General. If the Attorney General wants to, he can take over the suit and prosecute the civil suit himself. But if he does, the citizen that started the case, these are called QUITAM actions, Q-U-I-T-A-M. Let's get those Law and Order notebooks on, Jose. So the citizen that filed a QUITAM complaint, even if the Attorney General takes over the case and does the whole case, the citizen is entitled to some of the money that's recovered, maybe as much as 25%. So that's the incentive for citizens to be on the lookout for illegal government activity and help in the enforcement here. Attorney Joseph Rosano represents Michael San Nicolas and his father. He wrote in his memorandum that a major characteristic of the law is the mandatory confidentiality of a complaint to allow the government of Guam time to determine whether to intervene. It made no sense and produces an absurd result to allow GovGuam to file a complaint as a private person while GovGuam, in another sense, decides whether to intervene, Rosano stated. He's saying Gura, GovGuam, same thing. He further argued, citing statute, legislative intent, and other issues, that only the Attorney General or a person other than GovGuam can file a complaint under the False Claims and Whistleblower Act. Attorney Joseph McDonald, Gura counsel, wrote that an agency is clearly a person both under the False Claims Law and rules of construction of law. The housing assistance payments contracts at the end of the Gura lawsuit apply to landlords participating in the Housing Choice Voucher Program funded by HUD, commonly known as Section 8. Thousands of Guam households avail themselves of this program. These contracts contain conflict of interest provisions which prevent a covered individual, quote unquote, from having a direct or indirect interest in a housing contract funded under the Section 8 program. There are a few classes of covered individuals, including public officials who exercise responsibilities with respect to the housing program. Gura stated that immediate family members of those officials are also covered individuals. When Michael San Nicolas stated he would sever ties with his Section 8 tenants in 2017, he also said he was not notified of the conflict until February that year. Gura management at the time accused him of failing to end his conflict of interest over the years, which San Nicolas called materially false. In 2020, the Office of the Attorney General opined that the Housing Assistance Program contract indicates the owner should disclose prohibited interest to the public housing authority. The Public Housing Authority is also liable to reimburse HUD for any excess payments made under HAP contracts, but could also seek recovery of those overpayments from the landlord, the Attorney General stated. So here it is. HUD says you should have kicked Michael and Miguel San Nicolas out of their HAP, their Section 8 housing contracts. And because you didn't, you have to reimburse HUD. But have no fear, you can sue the individuals to recover the money that you're supposed to reimburse to HUD. Now there are, and as I mentioned, this is kind of similar to what happened to Mark Smith, except Mark Smith was prosecuted criminally. So there's an interesting legal issue here, and I do want to pick up on something else here before I leave this matter that maybe one of our listeners will want to repeat once I get to that point of the program. But right now I'm going to head for Wrigley Field. We'll be back in a minute to talk about San Nicolas and Smith.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guam Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Portions of the program brought to you by Nissan. Choose your favorite Nissan, and there's an abundance of Nissan automobiles to choose from. Rogues, Rogue Sports, Muranos, Kicks, Sentras, Leafs, Rogues, and then start talking about the deal they want to put together for you. Enjoy 0% APR, or your first 3 payments are on them. Just sign and drive away. Inventory limited, so don't wait. See Nissan Guam first. Wait, there's the fine print. I got to read the thing in fine print ease. On approved credit, 3 payments calculated, 5% APR, 60 months term, and based on the actual selling price of the vehicle only, not including down payment or any aftermarket products or accessories. See Nissan Guam for full details.
So here we are, Wrigley Field, Chicago, world's most beautiful ballpark. We come in here every afternoon for our 7th inning stretch. That means I've only got 2 more innings of Tall Tales to go today. Excuse me, and I'm going to cherish every moment of them. So going back to Michael San Nicolas's defense, the San Nicolas A. Phil's father and son defense, they're saying that the Attorney General can file a qui tam suit, or a private person can, or a person can, but they're saying Gura can't. Now, a little legal lesson here. A corporation is a person in the eyes of the law. There are natural persons and legal persons, and a corporation is a person A partnership is not a person. A sole proprietorship is a person. So a corporation has a long-term existence, a lot of the same characteristics as a person, but a corporation is clearly recognized as a person for many aspects of the law. So when I read this article, I thought, well, maybe Gura is a corporation. There are government corporations. So I turned to the law, and this is what I found. At 5 GCA Section 5103, Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, subsection A, there is hereby created a public body, corporate and politic. Doesn't sound so good for the San Nicolases, does it? And then if I go to 5104, powers and duties of the authority. The authority shall have all the powers necessary and convenient to carry out and perform the purposes and provisions of this chapter, except the power to levy and collect taxes or special assessments, including the following, in addition to other powers granted in this article, and may, A, have perpetual succession. C, have a seal and modify it. B, sue and be sued. So that's not looking so good for the San Nicolases, is it? But then I turned to 5 GCA Chapter 36, Article 2, Civil Actions for False Claims and Whistleblowing. And this is what I find. At Section 37202, a person may bring a civil action for a violation of Sections 37102 and 37103 for the person and for the government, etc. The action shall be brought in the name of the government. The action may be dismissed only if the court and the Attorney General give written consent to the dismissal, etc. A copy of the complaint and written disclosure of substantially all material evidence, etc., shall be served on the government of Guam to include the Attorney General's office, etc. Section 37201, the Attorney General shall diligently investigate a violation under this law if the Attorney General finds that a person is violated or is violating the law. So if you read Article 2 of Title 5, looks like maybe the San Nicolases have a point, because it says a person may bring a civil action for the purpose and for the government of Guam. So you tie that back into Rosano's arguments. I didn't do in-depth research. I did a little horseback research, and I have a feeling that the San Nicolases are right, that a government corporation cannot bring a qui tam action. So if that's the case, then there's a very good chance that the San Nicolases' motion to dismiss will be granted. Now, I turn from there to something that I know that I've got him in the green room here, a caller who is probably going to repeat his argument more often, more than once. But Pete Santos wrote a letter to the editor, and here's what he said about that particular issue. Gura was told by the U.S. HUD that they must sue the San Nicolases for the illegal rent, or else the people of Guam will have to pay the money back. I don't think that's exactly what it was. I think that Gura has to pay and can be reimbursed, but that's a minor point. In response to the lawsuit, Michael and Miguel San Nicolas have stated that Gura cannot sue them because legally Gura is an entity and not a person for purposes of suing them. Well, that's kind of what they said. And then he goes on to say this: Michael San Nicolas did not assert that he did nothing wrong. He can't. He knows he did something wrong. He just asserts that Gura can't sue him legally. So the bottom line is Michael San Nicolas knowingly and intentionally committed illegal acts and benefited from them, and now wants the people of Guam to pay back $156,000 that he illegally received. I am a legal person for the purpose of that statute, and I don't believe the people of Guam should pay $156,000 for the misdeeds of Michael San Nicolas. Well, let's look at this like a lawyer, not like a person. Let me try that again. Let's look at this like a lawyer, not like a person, because we know lawyers are not persons, right? They're totally, it's
Hanging
not,
by a thread.
Yeah, it's a lawyeribus sapiens, not Homo sapiens, right? So a lawyer looks at a case and he wants to get a good result for his lawyer. He's supposed to get a good result for his lawyer in the fastest, least expensive way that he can. So lawyers are always looking for threshold factors that they might jump on in order to get a case dismissed before it goes to what's called the merits. And if a lawyer has if a case is such that a lawyer could get a dismissal pre-merits and he doesn't, that's malpractice, because that's what a lawyer is supposed to do. So if Rosano figures, the counsel for the San Nicolas figures that Gura is not a proper plaintiff to bring this suit, he has to bring this motion to dismiss. And then to come along and say, well, you know, San Nicolas never said, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, it's really not what the lawsuit is about. It's not what the story is about. And I suppose it's an occupational hazard, but I cannot resist the temptation at looking at something like this in a lawyer-like fashion as opposed to what I would refer to as a Cracker Barrel fashion. Well, you know, he did something wrong. Now he's trying to get out from under it on a technicality. That's why you hire lawyers, to get you a good result as fast as you can. Now, if there is a dismissal, that doesn't mean that somebody else can't bring the same case. And to me, the really hard question to answer here, the really pertinent question is, where was the Attorney General when this was going on? The United States Attorney knows what to do with these conflicts of interest. And where was the Attorney General when this Key Tam suit was filed? You know, the Attorney General could have stepped in and said, I'm taking this over, and mooted out this whole corporation as a person argument, but the Attorney General didn't choose to do that. Okay, so as luck would have it, guess who's in the green room waiting to get on? The legendary Pete Santos, who says he has a friend who told him that, no, I'm not vaccinated, but I got the booster shot. Yeah, so not vaccinated, but he got the booster shot, right, Pete?
Yeah, I overheard that waiting in line today. I didn't comment on it, but you know, it just made me chuckle inside. But your analysis and your comments, Uncle Bob, are spot on. But I was writing for the public, you know, that letter, because that is the court of public forum. Anyways, if you will indulge me a little bit. But
are you going to be speaking for the court or for the public? You better be for the public, since this is Tall Tales, right?
Yes. I'll be speaking for the public. But before I get to that, just here's a little bit of tidbit irony. Guess who wrote the whistleblower?
Michael San Nicolas.
He sure did.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if this lawsuit survives, it's gonna be the one that does him in. But that's
and one more irony. Guess who testified against it? Me.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pete. We'll put the ironies aside and give the floor to you.
Yeah, I wanted to tie in some of the things that you often talk about, such as meritocracy and justice and fairness. And I was talking today with a friend about, meritocracy and how it seems to be lacking on Guam. And I said, it's true. That is very true. And my theory is that it is related to culture, because in the island culture, in the Chamorro culture especially, everything is about relationships and about friendships and about bloodlines. And so people don't get the same benefit just because they do a good job. You get hired because it's your pari, or you get the raise because it's your best man, or you were the best man, or whatever. So meritocracy, it's fighting to exist on Guam, but it's an uphill battle. Would you agree with that?
Well, I cannot say that, and for you it's a mouthful, Pete. But I think you're right.
Okay, and so one of the other things I opined when in this conversation is that there's another negative benefit of the lack of meritocracy here, but it stems from the same underlying reason about familial relationships and bloodlines and all that. It's that when someone who is beloved, someone who is well-liked, does anything wrong, nobody cares. And they give them a free pass. And that's what, why Michael St. Nicholas enjoys such popularity and such, I guess, Teflon-like characteristics, is because of who he is and who his familial relations and bloodlines are. Is that he could, they once said about Donald Trump, or Donald Trump once said that he could walk down Fifth Avenue, pull out a gun, shoot someone, and he'd still be popular and loved, right? Same kind of phenomenon with Michael St. Nicholas. And I say that because you were just talking about it. Why hasn't the AG done anything about it? Well, this was brought to the AG's attention, and they declined to intervene. And so that's what I see as one of the negative aspects of the culture. The pari-pari system, the boboyisms, the lack of meritocracy, is that not only do people who don't deserve, to get ahead are pushed ahead, but also people who do bad things don't have to face the consequences. They got a different set of rules for them. And that's what we're seeing in Michael St. Nicholas. And I wonder if Sean Anderson is going to do anything, because, Sean Anderson and Michael St. Nicholas are also kind of buddies too. So I don't know. I know Levin and Michael St. Nicholas are buddies, but I don't know to what extent the U.S. Attorney and Mike St. Nicholas are buddies.
That's an interesting. That's an interesting description of what's going on. Could I ask one more cultural question here? Isn't another element here that sometimes allows people to get a pass what you might refer to as the Sota culture? Yes.
Just basta, never mind, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Forget it.
Yeah.
But, what I see working with Michael St. Nicholas, even with all his allegations about his infidelity, about illegally converting his campaign funds, and a bunch of other things, having the worst record in Congress, sleeping in his office, locking himself in his office and sleeping and refusing to come out and see visitors and canceling meetings and all that. All these things that have come to light. Yet, like you said, sota, just let it go. We have seen the CNMI, we have seen Kilili Sablan working, running circles around Michael St. Nicholas, yet, and getting good results for his good, direct results that he can cite, you know, the amendments and the bills that he's introduced and the meetings that he's had to push certain issues. Yet we don't have any of that for Guam, and Guam is getting all the spillover benefits, like the state tuition agreement that we have recently. That was clearly Sablan's bill, right? Mm-hmm. And so Michael St. Nicholas had a press conference about it, but when he was asked questions about the details of that program, he couldn't answer it. Why? Because he wasn't involved. So he's there to deliver the news, the good news, but he can't tell you what the good news is about. So
you know, when I put the card together today, instead of calling it Mark Smith versus Michael St. Nicholas, I was tempted to call it Michael St. Nicholas versus Michael St. Nicholas.
Yeah, he is his own worst enemy, but he has a lot of enablers, and they're called the voters of Guam.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
After you, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, we get what we elected, you know, and when the people of Guam will wake up, I have no idea.
Well, my analysis is that things will never change as far as the what you say is the second place that meritocracy is going to take until we have a part-time legislature.
I agree.
Because the whole system is kind of, it's like a house of cards. And that legislature is the key card. And if that card were pulled out, that whole anti-meritocrat system would fall apart. That's my analysis, Pete.
Yes, and, you know, if we had a true meritocracy, then James Moylan wouldn't be as popular as he was. If we really objectively looked at what he's been doing and what he's gotten done, he has a dismal record.
He's written a lot of letters, Pete.
Oh, yeah. Yes. He could probably submit those for college credits at UOG.
You remember back in the day when young kids used to have pen pals?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess Jim never outgrew the idea that he needed to have a lot of pen pals.
Unrequited.
Yes. Yeah, and you know, what I'm saying is UOG, or not just UOG, but a lot of places, a lot of universities, they say, you know, give us your work experience, and then we'll give you a college diploma for it. I think by now Moylan's a doctorate. He's gotten a doctorate.
Yeah, you're awfully critical of public officials here, Pete. I kind of thought that was my job, but you're kind of horning in on me.
I know. I pride myself that I just say things that people are thinking and are afraid to say.
Yeah, that's the motif for Tall Tales.
Yeah, and I get attacked, but you know, I've got skin thicker than the bomb shelters in Germany. Have you ever seen those bomb shelters that are 3 meters thick?
I never have.
That's
Pete.
9 feet.
Yeah.
That's 9 feet of concrete. They still exist today because it's cost prohibitive to dismantle them.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, your call made a lot of sense, Pete. I'm really glad you gave us a buzz and made some really good points. Thanks for calling. Got to go to Churchill Downs.
All right, let's stop.
Afre, my name is Kiona Rivera, student at the University of Guam and recent recipient of the G is for Giving Scholarship. This holiday season, I'm encouraging our island community to support the G is for Giving campaign. Your generous contribution not only support programs at the university, but also helps students like me reach our academic goals. For more information on how you can help shape the future leaders of our island, call the UOG Endowment Foundation at 671-735-2957 or visit their website at give.uog.edu.
The holidays are here, and you know what that means. Time to gather with family and friends, dress up our homes, and explore Christmas season in paradise. Why not share these moments for a chance to win $100 in cash? Log on to visit guam.com/Instagram today to participate in the Guam Visitors Bureau #Instagram photo and video contest. A winner will be chosen every week, so share your best holiday moments now and win. Brought to you by GVB, making Guam a better place to live, work, and visit.
Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, the home stretch for another exciting, elucidating, educational episode of Tall Tales. I've just got, a few more furlongs to go, and this race will be over. I've got one of our regular callers on the line who has his own theme song. Yeah, regular tailgaters know that heralds the arrival of Drive-Through Jack. What drive-through are you in today, Jack?
I'm in traffic right now, Bob, but it's nice to hear that, as we all know, a way to a man's heart is to his stomach. So I'm glad for the theme. I have to disagree with Pete on this. When it comes to Democrats, we're not talking about
you only get to do it once now. You can't repeat it. But go on, Jack.
I got it. When it comes to meritocracy on the Democratic Party, that's out the window. So what we're really talking about is a choice between lesser evils, and that's what happened with Mike St. Nicholas. Really, are we talking about what were our choices for our representative there, and that's what it boiled down for me.
Well, we had Robert Underwood and we had Doris Brooks. Remember?
And you also had Madeline. So you had the Mr.
Will Castro.
That couldn't spell his name right. So it was a choice between the lesser evil, as most of us know. But I wanted to also throw in a little bit of trivia about corporations and personhood. I learned this from KLG and Father Perron, Frank Perron, who's a priest for life, and he constantly states on the program that the same Supreme Court members that ruled that a baby wasn't a person was the same group of U.S. Supreme Court that ruled that a corporation is a person. And, he said it in that way that made you want to think about it.
Time out, Jack, for a second here. That's a nice story, but, corporations have been persons since going all the way back to the Roman Empire, for crying out loud. This is not some new ruling that the Supreme Court came up with. But go on with your story.
I agree, but he was referring to a Supreme Court case that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I totally agree with you. And then another thing about this whole problem with Paul Zerzan and Red Rice. He caused such a big problem, a big conundrum about it, that the governor herself had to come out with P-Core levels, the pandemic color of redness for Red Rice. And so, I'm sort of like in limbo and, in the middle of the gender issue about swimming, because as a golfer, I tee off from the Paul Zerzan P-Core level tees there. Some places they're red, some places they're off orange. And, I'm proud of my golf handicap from the ladies' tees. I benefit from it. I'm not going to lie. I enjoy chasing down the beer cart lady when the weather is nice. But, it
sounds like you kind of take a holistic approach to it.
Yes. Nice one. But anyways, I'm on my way home with my wife, and we're gonna stop by, get something to eat, maybe. And I just wanted to wish you remainder, good evening.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, drive-through Jack. Not as much fun as talking to the lady in the drive-through that's taking your order, like that time that you called when we first found out that you were drive-through Jack.
Okay, boss.
Okay, well, talk to you later, Jack. Drive-through Jack. How long? It must have been a year or so ago, huh? He called. It's about this time of the day, and I could hear him talking to somebody else. And I said, Jack, what's going on? I thought you were talking to me. Oh, I'm at the drive-through, and I'm just placing my order. And the lady who was taking his order, you know, you could hear her voice went out to the international radio listening audience. It was really interesting, and he's been drive-through Jack ever since. If you wondered how we got to be drive-through Jack, Jose, that's the story.
Do you remember which drive-through he was at?
I remember he ordered a fish wish, but I don't remember. It must have been McDonald's if it's a fish wish, huh?
And he never stopped by here to drop it off.
He never did. And he's never dropped anything off here, but he's kind of legendary as far as Tall Tales is concerned because he is drive-through Jack, has his own theme song, just like the most dangerous man in the room. All of the characters that inhabit the tailgate premises, some of them are quite interesting. So let's see, I got about, one more minute till 1 more second. Okay. All right, that's it for another episode of Tall Tales. We'll be back tomorrow, and I'll sign off by saying, let's go, Brandon.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Help is on the way. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. President Biden issuing disaster declarations for Tennessee and Illinois to help in the cleanup of weekend tornadoes. He'd previously declared a disaster in Kentucky, where Governor Andy Beshear says they can't even estimate the damage yet.
Thousands of homes are damaged, if not entirely destroyed, and it may be weeks before we have final counts on both deaths and levels of destruction.
And then there's the emotional toll. This woman in Mayfield, Kentucky, which was nearly blown off the map.
It's just upsetting, to know that that's the town that you grew up in and everything, his memories is all gone.
The president will visit Mayfield and some other parts of Kentucky tomorrow. There's been a powerful earthquake offshore from Indonesia. The U.S. Geological Survey pegs the magnitude at 7.3, followed by a strong aftershock. There were fears of a possible tsunami, but that alert has been canceled. It was 17 years ago this month that an earthquake triggered a huge tsunami wave that killed 255,000 people in Indonesia. The Democrat-controlled House Select Committee on January 6th voting to hold former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows in contempt for defying their subpoena for his testimony. Meadows telling Fox's Hannity.
When we look at the real results of this investigation, it is not really, the foundation is not based on a legislative purpose.
The full House will vote whether to refer the case to the Justice Department for possible prosecution. The Supreme Court has turned away a request for an emergency order blocking a vaccine mandate for healthcare workers in New York State. A group of doctors, nurses, and other professionals say the mandate forces them to choose between their jobs and their religious beliefs. America is listening to Fox News.